Two for the price of one. Unpopular opinion. It annoys me to no end how smug and like faux enlightened it is. I can't believe I'm saying this, but no, we can't be perfect. So we might as well be, what, degenerates? There's a lot of gray area when it comes to sustainability, and therefore a lot of juicy disagreement. Controversy, unpopular opinions, hot takes. But there's more than one way to feed a cat. We all have different approaches to our environmentalism, and that's not a bad thing. So I wanted to start a series sharing eco-friendly items I use every day, but with a fun twist. Some of the items I'll be sharing with you in this series have been criticized by other good earth people, members of our own community, for reasons which we'll definitely talk about. And some of them have been criticized by practically everyone else. But the point is to have a little fun, talking about the drama and the nuance, and I guess kind of own where we're at in our sustainability adventures. So let's do it. Whenever I say something on Instagram about reducing our consumption of new tech, I get two sorts of pushback. First, someone will show up to say,
"Who are you to talk? Aren't you using a phone that was made with mined minerals and slave labor?"
Oh, busted. Yeah, I use technology, and kind of a lot of it. But what they can't tell just by looking is that all my tech is secondhand. So not necessarily environmentalists, but just regular everyday people are running to the comments to say, I have no right to encourage others to reduce their consumption of new tech, when I'm obviously buying up all these unnecessary, expensive, wasteful, exploitive gadgets myself. What a hypocrite. And then listen to this constructive comment. The modern setup and amount of things you have in that part of your house doesn't really scream resist consumerism, so maybe just buy it. See, these commenters couldn't care less if I have a modern setup or not. They're just trying to shut me up because they felt that their own consumption habits were being attacked. They thought they were pulling a good old-fashioned gotcha moment on me, but it's not gonna work, Owen Clifford. So you have one camp saying, how dare you preach the virtues of downshifting consumption? If you really cared about consumption and overconsumption, you wouldn't have a quote modern setup. But then you also have this other camp who will show up with my favorite comment. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Have you heard this one? A saying that of course I agree with to an extent, but lately I feel like it's just been completely divorced from all context and its original meaning. And whenever I hear someone say that there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, I imagine they're just like giving themselves a well-deserved pat on the back. It annoys me to no end how smug and like faux enlightened it is. Because let's unpack that phrase a little bit. Here's what their argument is. Capitalism is unethical and destructive, so everything made in this system is unethical. Therefore, we can't criticize society's overconsumption because, hey, we're all unethical here no matter what we consume. By virtue of the system we're forced to live within. So let me try to get this straight. We can't be perfect, right? So we might as well be, what, degenerates? This quote has basically become shorthand for screw it all, we're already doomed, let's just have a giant free-for-all and overconsume as much as we want because, hey, it's unethical no matter what. I'm sorry, but I do not subscribe to that flawed logic. Flogic, if you will. I know I will. You'll see this type of comment all the time on Shein haul videos, for example, because folks in the comments use it to justify their fast fashion habit, their travel, their diet, their new electronics, everything. But here's what no ethical consumption under capitalism really means. When you're working class, you're forced to choose between buying the ethical, more expensive option or buying the conventional option for cheaper because you need money left over for true necessities like rent. And the system that makes you choose between those two options is broken. It's a broken system through no fault of your own. No ethical consumption under capitalism was just a reminder that you shouldn't be so hard on yourself for economic circumstances beyond your control. But it's never been an excuse to go like buck wild. So bringing this back to tech in particular, does that mean our only options are to either A, cave and buy the phone made with mined metals and slave labor and be a normal functioning member of society, Or B, completely renounce technology and go without? I'm gonna go with C, neither of the above. Those are not our only two options because there is a loophole, an ethical life hack, if you will, and that's buying our tech refurbished, which just means buying something that's been used and repaired instead of just buying new. So all the tech I own for my personal life and for my work were all bought used. The camera that I used to film my stupid hot takes, they're not that stupid. The iPad that I do silly little doodles on for said videos. Say hi, iPad. The laptop that enables me to time-consumingly stitch my hogwash together into a somewhat cohesive piece of content. The TV that plays various intellectual television programs for me. And the phone that grants me hours of mind-numbing escapism, pretty much on demand. All bought used. Because this is a world where two things can be true simultaneously. The devices we need in order to function in modern society are not made ethically or regeneratively because capitalism, but we can easily opt out of that system and create less demand for unethically and unsustainably produced electronic gadgets. I think even people who don't give a crap about the environmental impact of mining or unethical working conditions should consider buying refurbished tech because guess what? It's just as good as new and oftentimes only costs like half the price. Plus, you get a warranty. It just makes sense. No ethical consumption under capitalism. Give me a break. So, one of the reasons I dislike traveling is because the US hasn't caught on to the bidet yet. Yeah, I said it. Traveling is overrated. 2 for the price of 1. Unpopular opinion. It's expensive. Your schedule gets messed up. And there are usually no bidets. The TUSHY bidet. I had no idea what I was missing, but now I can never go back. All the exaggerated, glowing reviews about how this will change your life, game changer, yeah, they're 100% accurate. I'm here to say. But then why aren't they more popular in the US? Like, why haven't they caught on here? There's like this ick factor when it comes to them that makes absolutely zero sense to me. And when you ask people why they're so grossed out by the bidet, I'm not even sure they know. But I do. I think I know. Rumor has it the disfavor of bidets originated in World War II with US soldiers. The brothels that they'd frequent in France were always equipped with bidets, so they came to be associated with sex work and sin and debauchery, all that good stuff. Knowing how performatively puritanical Americans can be, I get that. I see that, that tracks. But my other theory, well, my hot take, and I have 2. Number 1, I don't think folks want to be reminded that the default pooping method is unhygienic. They'd rather not have it pointed out that the best most of us can do is simply remove the majority of the poop and just smear around what's left with like dry toilet paper. It's saying the quiet part out loud, and most United Statesians don't want to hear that because this is just how it's done.
This is how we poop. This is how my old man pooped and his old man before him.
And theory number 2, I think there's a little bit of internalized homophobia afoot. Straight cis men are maybe scared that they will enjoy the sensation of the bidet a little too much. Like they think it might make them a little gay. Well, I can't speak to that, but I will say it's not uncomfortable if you're using it properly. But anyway, this TUSHY bidet was gifted to me, I think in 2019, but I would for sure pay for it out of pocket because not only do you feel fresher, cleaner, squeakier, you also save an imperial crap ton on toilet paper. Very good news for the environment. Very good news for the environment. Like I'm talking at least 50% slashed from our TP budget. Bidet attachments pay for themselves in toilet paper savings because you just have to use so much less of it. And that's how come I can afford bougie eco-friendly toilet paper, which I also use every day. And my dude Reed can't live without it either. It's moved with us cross country and back again thrice. Highly, highly recommend. Because here's my hot take. Unless your body is capable of scheduling your poops to occur right before your shower time. Without a bidet, you're pooping wrong. I can't believe I'm saying this, but no. If you know me, you'll know I never suggest buying something just because it's marketed as being eco-friendly. Like, if anything, I'll tell you, don't buy something just because it's being marketed as eco-friendly. But for the TUSHY bidet, this is definitely as close as I'll get to like begging. And I'm not paid to say that whatsoever. In fact, TUSHY didn't even approve me as being an affiliate for them, and I'm still kind of salty about that.
We interrupt this program for a transmission from outer space.
Okay, future Allison here to say, nope, I kind of lied. I just found out that TUSHY is sold on the Earth Hero website, which I am an affiliate for. So I kind of am paid to say that, but it's 1000% true. And I will put the link to Earth Hero website just in case my terrible sales pitch actually worked on you.
That is the end of the transmission.
I was just thinking about this, and I believe that there are 3 types of people who receive the full brunt of the internet's ire. Landlords. Makes sense. People who ruin mid-century furniture with paint. I also get that. And Depop girlies who resell thrifted clothing on the internet for profit. That's right, most days of the week, I'm wearing something that I bought pre-loved from someone who resells used clothes at a higher price point than what they paid. Believe it or not, this is a pretty hotly debated topic, both within the sustainability movement and outside of it. And I'm gonna be a little less glib going forward because I feel like this topic deserves to be talked about delicately. But first I have to change my battery, hold on. Okay, so what's the controversy here? Why do so many people consider selling thrifted clothing for a profit to be unethical? What are resellers accused of? They're mostly accused of stealing from the poor to turn huge profits and causing price hikes at the thrift store. Okay, let's talk about the stealing from the needy accusation, because I understand the sentiment. I really do, and I think it's coming from a real place. Wealth inequality is rampant, and thrifting is the only option for a lot of folks. So by buying things up at the thrift store and then turning around and reselling them with a markup, resellers are reducing the options for poor people. To be completely fair, I used to think that reselling thrifted clothing was morally iffy. And if there was a shortage of clothing, I think this argument would be extremely valid. But there is no shortage of clothing, and thrift stores are not just for one income bracket. They're open to everyone. Actually, I was listening to an episode of Clothes Wars podcast, my favorite, and one of the guests had such a great point. They were talking about this exact topic. And the guest said she thinks that the misconception that thrift stores are only for poor people may have started because the purpose of many thrift shops is to raise money for charity. Many thrift stores are run by charitable organizations, but the goods inside the shop are not the charity. If thrift shops themselves were charities, they'd be giving away the donations that they receive to people in the community who needed them. But they don't do that. Like when you donate a pair of jeans to the Salvation Army, not my favorite organization, but use it as an example. You donate your jeans to the Salvation Army. Those jeans themselves are not the charity. Literally anyone could walk in and buy them, regardless of income, regardless of need. It's the profit that Salvation Army makes from reselling those jeans that becomes the charity. The money that gets put toward a specific cause. The specific cause that they're fundraising for. That's the charity. Who those jeans get sold to, Salvation Army couldn't care less. They don't care if you're poor or rich. All they want to do is sell as many of their donated goods as possible at the highest price possible to be able to contribute the max amount to their charitable cause. And of course, keep the lights on, pay staff, pay dumpster fees, pay rent. And when you think about it, if you support the mission of your neighborhood thrift store, you should want them to sell as many of their donations as possible too, right? But the sad fact is, The vast majority of clothes that are donated to the thrift stores, we're talking like 80 to 90%, are not resold at the thrift store. No one buys them, so they either go to the landfill or get downcycled into insulation or something like that, or get baled up and shipped across the ocean to developing countries, stifling whole economies and often ending up as litter, forming giant dunes in the desert or rotting in the ocean because there's simply too much of it to go around. Too much. So thrifting is for poor people. I agree. It's also for middle class people. It's for everyone. We all need to be thrifting regardless of socioeconomic status because there's more than enough to go around. So now let's talk about the other argument that resellers are driving up prices at the thrift shop. Well, a fact about me is that I've been thrifting for 20 years. In 2004, I could buy a skirt at Goodwill for $4. The good old days, right? Because 2 decades later, they're $8. I've seen the prices rise. I've felt it. I believe it, it's happening 100%, but is it because of resellers? Well, thrift stores themselves say it's happening for many reasons, none of which include resellers really. 1, general inflation. When the price of equipment like labels and hangers and tags and receipt paper go up, thrift store can't eat those costs. Not to mention that stores like Goodwill are routinely assessing their competitors in the area. So if the TJ Maxx next door is raising their prices, Goodwill's not far behind. It's just good business sense or whatever. Second reason, supply and demand. Demand for secondhand is going up, but good quality donations are going down. This is partly because during tough financial times, people need to be thriftier with their purchases, spending less where possible, so they're more likely to opt for used. All right, demand goes up. But on the other hand, people are less likely to make donations because money's tighter. The good quality supply goes down. People would rather try and sell their unwanted possessions themselves, maybe in a yard sale or a consignment shop or Facebook Marketplace. And then they'll donate whatever they couldn't sell. Basically, the lower quality stuff. And the last big reason is real estate. Rents all across the country are skyrocketing, and why would thrift shops be immune from that, right? When property values increase, rents increase. And like we talked about earlier, thrift shops cannot necessarily eat these costs. They have to pass them on to the customers in order to keep the doors open. A bonus reason is, surprise, surprise, corporate greed back on its bullshit. But not all thrift shops are guilty of this, so we'll save that for another conversation. But resellers are making thrifting trendy, right? So that has to be contributing to the increases we've been seeing in thrift stores. I don't think there's any proof of this because when you look at the history of the secondhand economy throughout the centuries, that's right, centuries, because this has been going on for centuries, thrifting has always gone in and out of style, especially during times of economic weirdness. The Great Depression, World War I, the stock market crash of the 70s, the 2008 financial crisis, the COVID recession of today, to name just a few of the big ones. Also, I think it's really cool to add here that the popularity of thrifting definitely increases during times of like anti-establishment sentiment, the hippie movement, grunge, environmentalism, ever heard of it? So I'm not gonna call this one a hot take because I feel like that kind of trivializes the amount of thought that people, put into their stances in this topic, but I do feel very strongly that resellers are not to blame. And in fact, they're reducing some of the burden fast fashion puts on the planet. They're performing a valuable service, matching up specific pieces with specific buyers, digging through literal piles of trash to find one gem, researching, curating, mending, washing, and steaming, then measuring, cataloging, storing, modeling, photographing, copywriting, SEO optimizing, packaging, shipping, and customer care. I'm happy to support this labor because it helps prevent clothing becoming waste, and it also supports small business. Because I want to add here too that many resellers are in their line of work because they maybe couldn't hold a traditional job. People with neurodevelopmental disabilities like me, or mental illness, me, chronic pain sufferers, full-time caregivers, queer people, low-income people. That's right. The people that we're accusing of stealing from the poor are poor themselves. Who'd have thunk it? I think the blame has been misplaced. I think blaming resellers for rising prices is counterproductive and pretty much straight up ignores history. And as long as there's a secondhand economy, I'm absolutely sure that at least some of the things I buy will be from resellers. Well, that was fun. I had fun, and I have even more to share in a part 2, like items I love that have been widely accused of greenwashing. So why not subscribe if that feels right to your life? And speaking of fun content, I'm also thinking about maybe doing like a spring/summer refresh in my apartment refresh, but make it sustainable, you know what I mean? So if you like that, let me know in the comments, and that'd make my day, honestly. So if you made it this far in the video, hats off to you. I'm so curious to hear your thoughts. No, I'm desperate to hear your sustainability related unpopular opinions. But anyway, when part 2 of the series is live, I will link it in the description beneath the like button. But until then, here's a video I made. There's a Stewart hair floating in the... But until then, here's a video I made about all the unhinged zero waste habits that I stopped doing because they were like unhinged. And I hope you have a perfectly acceptable rest of your day. High five. Like when I'm recording, I'm always like... I don't think I do that in real life. I think I'm more like... No, I'm not like that either.